Frank Klose answers your Phillies mailbag questions every Tuesday at this time for 97.3 ESPN.com. He also informs me that there's a Bryce is Right IPA beer that fans should be able to get sometime soon. What's happening, man?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Everything is good, man. You feeling a little under the weather, I hear.
Yeah, just a little bit. It definitely, like Pete Thompson, I missed out on a lot of fun this weekend due to illness, but I'm hanging in there. I feel okay. I just don't sound okay.
You got the Bryce Harper flu, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's look at some stuff for the Phillies. By the way, we were talking about this earlier. Like the Nationals, he's like the Nationals' one like forever player. You know, he's like the best guy they ever had. Do you think that the people of the Nationals fan base even knows how to react tonight?
That's a great question, and you got to really wonder how many of these Nationals fans really are Nationals fans. I mean, in some respects, the nature of Washington, D.C. being the political environment and kind of people coming in from other cities and states, they don't necessarily have that steady fan base. So a lot of people that might have tickets that live in the area might not care a lot about the Nationals to begin with. So, I think the ones that are hardcore that live in places like Virginia year-round, and I think they will give him some appreciation. There's some reports, or some people in the media are really pushing Nationals fans to cheer Bryce Harper tonight, and I think you can't avoid some boos. And Bryce Harper just a moment ago in a press conference he had at 3 o'clock with the Nationals media said that he's been receiving a lot of messages saying that fans are telling him on Instagram that they'll cheer him first, but then they'll boo him later after all that. So you'll probably see a lot of cheers in the beginning, and then eventually they have to concede that he is the enemy now.
Yeah, and the mayor actually, what they call him, like a Benedict Arnold or something.
Yeah, the mayor uploaded a picture of Benedict Arnold where she imposed Bryce Harper's face on an image of Benedict Arnold, tweeted it out, ended up deleting the tweet, and then, just went about her day tweeting other stuff like nothing ever happened. But I think it's kind of unfair to call him that, especially with that other report that came out today from the Washington Post that the Nationals actually made their offer a lot worse as the offseason went on. And it sounds like if even that original deal might have still been on the table, that he might have actually taken it.
Frank Klose covers the Phillies, 97.3 ESPN.com, at Frank Klose with a K. Your Phillies mailbag questions as we go through the mailbag here on this Tuesday edition. Let's start off with a guy that, really, last year he was an exciting guy and they signed him to this deal. What about Scott Kingery? What's the plan with Kingery? If you're Kapler, I don't know how you touch or tweak this lineup right now.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. And Scott Kingery certainly will get some playing time, but if you're the Phillies right now, that lineup just railroad over the Atlanta Braves, scoring 23 runs in 3 days. That's pretty impressive, and kind of you want to make the idea that if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? The old adage, and I thought maybe that there was a chance. And by the way, my whole mailbag got screwed up 5 minutes ago when the Phillies posted the lineup and Kingery was not in it. I was wondering for a while if Scott Kingery might start against Max Scherzer because the only 2 at-bats he has against Max Scherzer, he has hits. So I thought maybe since some of the other Phillies have struggled against Max Scherzer, Cesar Hernandez has perhaps the most at-bats of any Philly against him, which is 40. He's only hitting about 125, and Mike Franco's struggled against Max Scherzer as well. So I thought maybe there was a shot that you might see Kingery put in the lineup today. But if not today, maybe tomorrow. I think that the Phillies are, the way that the rotations kind of lined up is going to kind of dictate, I think, what happens. And, the Phillies, they're going to pitch Aaron Nola tomorrow. They are only skipping Vince Velasquez. But what the Nationals are doing is, with all these off days, they're starting Max Scherzer on the normal 4 days rest. So Scherzer started the opener. Scherzer's going to start tonight. I think they really want to try to get out ahead of the Phillies here and collect a victory. So that means that tomorrow's day game will be Aaron Nola versus Aníbal Sánchez, who I still can't believe is in the league, although he had some success last year.
Pitching for a contender, no less.
Yeah, really. So, they let Tanner Roark go and brought in Aníbal Sánchez to save some money. But I think that tomorrow's lineup, especially with Nola playing, it might be the first opportunity to see some of the guys that are on the bench at the moment. You might see Scott Kingery. I think it's pretty certain you're going to see Andrew Knapp tomorrow. And it seems like that's a better matchup. And, keep all the big boys together off that 23-run series against the Braves. Have them go up against one of the game's best pitchers, Matt Scherzer. Just give it all you got. So I think that they can really show off their new lineup tonight because, let's face it, kind of the whole baseball world is watching.
Yeah. And you guess what? If they win tonight, I don't know if I change anything. I might ride the same lineup out again there if I'm which last year he tweaked the lineup almost daily, and so far he hasn't done anything. So we'll see if they win tonight if he just sticks with it until they lose.
Yeah, I think Kapler last year was aware that his lineup had a lot of holes, and so I think what he was trying to do last season was try to go game by game and try to squeeze out every last little bit of power and hits out of that lineup that he had, tried to play every matchup. But now that let's face it, the Phillies added 4 All-Stars to this lineup, So when you add 4 All-Stars to the lineup, and now you're 1 through 5 is Rhys Hoskins and 4 former All-Stars, 3 of whom were All-Stars last year, you just kind of, let them go loose.
Question from Zach. He wants to know about about Jerad Eickoff. Do you anticipate him working his way back into the rotation? And I guess forget injury, but on merit. I mean, is there going to be a time where they say, look, Eickhoff's just simply better than a guy that we have?
I think what's going to have to happen for the Phillies to go that route is somebody in the major leagues right now is going to either get hurt or prove that they are incapable in some significant way. The Phillies have not just – here's the thing. The Phillies have Eickhoff and a whole rotation down at AAA, Lehigh Valley that will be valuable depth that they will use this year, probably in some shape or form. So Eickhoff is going to be the sort of the number one starter, opening day starter for the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. But behind him, you have Cole Irvin, who the Phillies saw a bunch of in spring training and really liked, the left-handed pitcher, and he could work his way as the season goes on. And behind that, you have Enyel De Los Santos, Ranger Suarez, both who pitched for the Phillies last year. Let's not forget Drew Anderson, who had a tremendous spring training. I think his ERA was like .71 or something like that for the whole spring training. And then behind that, they're going to put JoJo Romero, who's kind of the one prospect getting bumped up a level here. So the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs are going with the 6-man rotation. I think what they're trying to do in some respects is, maximize the long-term potential for these guys so that if they're pitching fewer innings, the Phillies can grab one of them and confidently not think that they've used too many innings on those arms. And certainly Eickhoff, they put him at the top of the starting rotation with the idea that if things are going right for him, that he could be the guy that they grab. But I think what's going to precipitate that will be something happening at the major league level, either poor performance or because somebody gets hurt, which of course you hope doesn't happen. So, and you never know. There's always doubleheaders, and they need to grab a starter. You can add the 26-man. So, I'm sure we're going to see Eickhoff at some point in some way. But there are many to choose from when the day comes. So whoever's pitching well at AAA among those 5 that all seem to have a shot, I think they're going to get the call when they need somebody.
It's good to have options, and Eickhoff, was a guy that has, he's surprised when he came over in that Cole Hamels deal, and it really hasn't done much of the last year and a half due to injury. So we'll see what ends up happening as this season moves on. Philly so far, pitching's been okay. I mean, Nola was okay. Arrieta was, I was surprised Kapler allowed him to go over 100 pitches. That was very un-Kapler-like, too.
Well, one thing that's kind of interesting, the Phillies purposely held back their starters in grapefruit league action with the idea that they were going to see more of those guys that are down in AAA. They saw a lot of Cole Irvin. They saw a lot of Drew Anderson because he pitched so well. They wanted to see Ranger Suarez. They wanted to see Enyel De Los Santos. And then when Eickhoff was getting better, they wanted to see him. So that was kind of at the expense of the guys that were locks for the rotation. And maybe we're seeing in the beginning that they're a little bit rusty because they didn't have that same number of innings. I mean, even Arrieta and Nola didn't throw the usual in spring training. They're pitching in the minor league complex and off on the other fields in spring training. So maybe there's a little bit of rust there. And we saw Arrieta gave up some walks, was a little shaky early. Of course, it was really cold down there at Citizens Bank Park on Sunday night. So we'll see how this plays out. Maybe they'll catch the groove and they'll warm up a little bit, literally and figuratively.
All right. I know we're just early, but did the Phillies do anything, Frank, in the first 3 games to maybe reposition your outlook for the season?
Certainly, it's a good start. I mean, you kind of hope that they would win the first series. You looked at the Atlanta Braves going into the series, and I kind of said this to you last week. Their pitching was a little suspect. Mike Foltynewicz is hurt. He is on the recovery path. The Braves' success this year is probably going to have a lot to do with Mike Foltynewicz because he is a really talented young pitcher, and it sounds like he's going to start the Braves AAA opener and should be back in the major leagues sooner than later after that rehab stint is up. But looking ahead, I think the thing about the division is you can say that Mets have all these holes. I don't think much of the Robinson Cano addition, but the Mets and the Nationals have one thing in common is they've got starting pitchers who can shut down anybody at any given time. Yeah. So you can't assume that this lineup is going to roll over everybody long term. I mean, Noah Syndergaard is your number 2 starter there, and of course number 3 is Zach Wheeler, and of course Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer of the Nationals are for the 2 kind of just ahead of Aaron Nola last year in the Cy Young voting. So there are a lot of really strong arms that the Phillies are going to face a lot this year. And the teams are going to face each other a lot. So if you're looking for sort of a guarantee and the Phillies line is just sort of plow through the division long term and take the National East, no contest, I think it's going to be a lot more difficult than that just because these arms can make or break a day.
Yeah, and, it's odd because obviously the Nationals lost a high-profile player, but yet some people still think they're the favorite.
Yeah, I'm surprised. To me, it's not just about Bryce Harper. I actually think that the Nationals, at least baseball-wise, can make up for Bryce Harper okay with Juan Soto. You got to keep your eye on Juan Soto, and I think he's going to be a really, really nice player, and he will terrorize the Phillies for the next 7 years. But they also added Patrick Corbin to their starting rotation. So Corbin is no slouch, and of course the Phillies were in on him too. So the Nationals essentially subtracted Harper. Soto is going to be kind of coming of age, and then they basically replaced Gio Gonzalez with Patrick Corbin. So that's I would actually call right field a wash. When you consider what I think Soto's going to be, if you're kind of considering Soto replacing Harper there in the outfield, and the starting rotation got better than it was last year. Gio Gonzalez being a little bit older at that point and wasn't as effective last year. So you could say the Nationals got a little bit better than last year. The biggest thing for me with the Nationals is their bullpen. They acquired Kyle Barraclough and Trevor Rosenthal to sort of really lock down that bullpen. And so far, Trevor Rosenthal, who, by the way, is coming off a major injury, has given up, I think it's 5 runs and hasn't gotten an out yet. So a lot remains to be seen in their bullpen. Sean Doolittle, pretty reliable arm, but you got to get to him first. So I think this will be pretty interesting. If you can I don't know if the Phillies are going to take the approach they did last year with Scherzer, which would be to try to run up the pitch count and hopefully get him out of there and get to the bullpen, because I think this lineup will challenge Scherzer. But the Nationals are still a force to be reckoned with. I do put them a tick behind the Phillies at the moment, but we'll see.
All right, Frank Klose, the Phillies series. We'll have it covered for you all week long. 97.3 ESPN.com. At Frank Klose, there's his Phillies mailbag. Make sure you get your mailbag questions in for next week's edition of the Phillies mailbag with Frank Klose. Thanks, pal.
Thanks, Mike.